be that we had something behind us, maybe a green. Well, it would have to be behind you, wouldn't it?
That'll help.
Yeah.
Now, see, watch this. I can do this where I am, but I can do it electronically. See?
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I played around with that a little bit. I always
Just press wherever the send button is on that thing.
I always felt like people could, you know, because during COVID, we did a lot of work from home type conference calls, right? And so the technology is pretty good, but everybody still knows you're not there, right? It's a static image behind you. The ratios aren't quite perfect and all that. So I always just preferred to have like an actual image, you know.
Rhett, I'm ready when you're ready, sir.
Okay, I'll call you next week.
All right. You'll hear your music. That'll
Rahemi. Okay,
Dr.
let's
Amir.
rock and roll. Let's rock and roll.
And now, the most trusted name in radio, serving the Treasure Coast for over 30 years, Rhett Palmer, the mayor of the airwaves.
Well, good morning. Good morning. You and I in a series of getting and staying healthy together. Dr. Amir Rahemi is my guest today. Hello, Dr. Amir, and great to have you on here. Thanks for coming in the studio.
Good morning, Rhett.
If you're wondering what the background is here, I'm broadcasting from Maine, Maine, Bar Harbor, Maine, up here eating some lobster. And so now Dr. Amir owns, of course, Perkins Compounding Pharmacy out on Route 60 in Vero Beach. You also own another compounding pharmacy. Is that a compounding pharmacy too, the one down in Fort Pierce?
Yes, sir. Butterfield's Pharmacy. We're actually located in Port St. Lucie, Florida, but serving all of Fort Pierce and the Treasure Coast. We focus on compounding down there, but we also have a huge medical supply store and a real heart and passion for hospice that we take care of in that neck of the woods.
Wonderful. So you've been doing this for quite some time. When and where, and who are you that you should decide to become a pharmacist? Was your father before you in medicine, or?
Yeah, so I think, looking back, how I came to be a pharmacist was just happenstance. Came from a small town, Wajack, Michigan, and I worked at a local grocery store there. And in Michigan, probably not unlike Maine, there's a bottle return policy, right? So you got to pay 10 cents for every can that you pick up, and you get a refund when you bring it back. So that was my job. I would collect the cans, count the cans, and essentially pay out the money for the grocery store. And just as luck or God would have it, the pharmacist had to come through my can room each and every day to go to the restroom. And so we developed a relationship over time, and eventually he offered me a job. So it was pretty amazing. And I got my start. But I guess what was really, for me, what turned it in from a summer job to a career was an experience that I had, right, was a pharmacist. So in Michigan, we would cut our own wood, we would stack our own wood, and I got terrible poison ivy. My entire body, head to toe, couldn't move. And so went to the doctor, and he took us over to a Walgreens, of all places. And the pharmacist gave me this medication called a Medrol dose pack, or a steroid dose pack. And it was like magic. It cured me. It was just 1 to 2 days from being absolutely miserable, not being able to do anything in life, to literally cured. And I think that moment just stuck in my head as something I wanted to be a part of. So I took that experience, God orchestrated an opportunity, and I just ran with it. I've been doing it 25 years now.
It seems to be very typical. Someone is given something and then they want to give it away. Someone will go to an orthopedic surgeon as a child and then become an orthopedic surgeon as an adult because that orthopedic surgeon saved their leg.
Yeah, 100%. And when I think about the way that the impact that it had on me, of course, right? And of course, we want to have that impact on other people.
And isn't it?
Yeah, sorry, you're breaking up a little bit there.
Pardon me?
I think we're good to go now. It was a quick freeze, but we're good.
Oh yeah, I heard that. It seemed like you were double talking or something there. I thought you were. Anyway, so Dr. Amir, Perkins Compounding Pharmacy. I want to know what's the difference. I know that Barbara gets something from you and has for years. And we don't want to give, what's that thing, the HIPAA thing. So I'm not going to discuss, obviously, her personally. But what is the difference between a compounding pharmacy and a regular typical pharmacy? And do you handle the same things that a typical pharmacy does, but just an additional thing of being a compounding pharmacy?
Yeah, great question. So yes, we do everything a typical pharmacy does. You know, your doctor writes you an order, you come in, we fill it, we bill it to insurance, you come into the store to pick it up, or we deliver it to you. We do everything a traditional pharmacy does. And of course, we have all of the traditional over-the-counter remedies that are available for cough, cold, pain, sleep. So we do everything a traditional pharmacy does, but where we differentiate and where we really specialize is that we create personalized medicine, right? And somebody might say, hey, what would be the need to have personalized medicine? And we see it in two areas the most. One, we work with a lot of individuals who are, 45 and above, and they're starting to have dysregulation, if you will, in hormones. And hormones are very, very specific to your age, to your symptoms, to your blood levels, to your weight. And doctors will create and calculate a prescription that is custom to you, right? In any given month, I will make 500 different formulas relating to hormones that are custom to that individual patient. So meaning that we are making it from scratch. We are deciding the concentration of medications and making it for that individual to help them live, the healthiest, happiest, and symptom-free life that they can. So that's group one. We make it from scratch. Group two is veterinary. So, dogs, cats, lizards, birds, snakes, hamsters, you name it. Such a dynamic range of weights and metabolisms in these animals that maybe 50% of the meds they take need to be custom made. They could be allergic to a substance. A substance could be harmful to them. That's in a traditional human medication. And so we have the opportunity to make that from scratch for those patients. And other times there's no allergy whatsoever, but for some people, have you ever tried giving a pill or a tablet to a cat, right? They're not going to have it. And so they'll come to us and we'll make a custom preparation that can actually be absorbed like through the skin or the cat ear to help the owner, to help the pet with more compliance and better health. And ultimately all of it, right, is about having more years of health and life with the ones you love.
Now, I wanted to ask you this. In the movie Back to the Future, one of the scenes is the fellow goes in there and the pharmacist. No, it's not Back to the Future. It's A Wonderful Life. You ever see the movie It's a Wonderful Life?
Once a year.
And he goes in there, and the pharmacist in this scene has a problem with drinking. I think he's alcoholic. And the guy Stewart there who plays the part of in A Wonderful Life, the lead role. Well, he's a young boy who happens to be alive at that time, sees that there's a problem, and thwarts that medicine from going when he delivers it on his bicycle. And so I remember when I was going to, I worked at Albany Medical Center, and I was a security guard. I was not in medicine. I was a 19-year-old. I actually had my 20th birthday there, but 12-hour shift a night, and I was the security guard. Had to go around and get this little thing punched because it proved to the insurance company we were watching out. But I noticed that the students that were in the pharmaceutical school were as brilliant and as bright as the medical doctors. And then when you think about it, I think you're my second friend that I have who's a pharmacist. And I realized the ramifications, because it's kind of like when you go in and you get surgery, they say, pay more attention to the guy that's putting you to sleep, because people generally don't die from the surgery. They can die from the overdose or, not having. So what you're doing is very important. You want somebody really sharp and with it
Yeah. No,
to do.
absolutely. And we're blessed with technology being what it is today. We're able to create processes and systems that are very redundant, where multiple people are, double checking and confirming all along the pathway. And of course, at Perkins, we're getting to work with pharmacists that have done this for 20 or 30 years, that have done precision compounding. So we're very blessed in that aspect. But what you mentioned, that's the stuff that keeps pharmacists up at night. We look back, and I'm laying in bed, and I'm reviewing all the prescriptions in my mind. Did this make
Wow.
sense? Did that make sense? Even if the dose is in range, right? I start to go back and say, well, I remember talking to, we'll say, Miss Johnson, right, at the counter. Did she really look like she was over 180 kilos? And it's just we rack our brains all night long to make sure that we got it right every time. And the mistakes are very few and far between. I don't want to say that they've never happened, but they're few and far between. And this is what creates a lot of stress in the pharmacy environment. I'm sure you've heard in the news
Wow.
recently, some of the tragedies, if you will, of pharmacists taking their life and other things. It's a very, very high stress job. But if you get the right people in place, people that really love and have a passion for it, are sharp, and detail oriented, it can be a very rewarding career for sure.
Wow, that's a heap of responsibility. I know one time I'd heard about a doctor who was in a rush and put 10 times the amount that it should have been, and the pharmacist, she caught it, called him up and said, "Oh yeah, no, you're right. It's because that 10 times the amount would have done in the patient.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that till today. Talking with you, I've never had a really in-depth conversation with a pharmacist like I'm having with you. Although throughout my life, I always make good friends with my pharmacist because it's good. You know what I mean? I wanted to ask you this: generic drugs. Now I take some high blood pressure medicines, so I take Toprol, and then there's something that they'll give me that's like Toprol, or Norvasc, and something that's like it. So is the generic drug as good as the original?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, clinically, there is no difference in the health outcome of taking a generic drug or a brand name drug. They may look slightly different. They could differ in the dye that they have, maybe the size that they have. And in very few instances, we found patients who might be sensitive to something in a generic when they weren't in the brand name. But by and large, 99.9% of the time, if it's my family, my mom, generic drug is absolutely the way to go. It's 100 times more affordable and 100% equivalent in its clinical efficacy in whatever they're trying to treat in you. So I would say, from my perspective, yes, it is as good. Now, there are
No,
caveats.
what? Go
There are
ahead. I'm
people
sorry.
there are caveats. There are people that will argue with me, but again, it's 1 in 1,000, and they could be sensitive to something that's in the generic, a dye or something, but there's also a mental piece to it as well. For just the type of individual who just wants the best. I want brand name. I drive the best everything. I eat the best everything. I want the best, and that's their prerogative for sure.
Well, that brings me up to the next question, which is how can you tell what are the immediate telltale signs or symptoms if I am having an allergic reaction to a medicine?
Yeah, so typically the things that we're very concerned about would be any trouble breathing, swelling of the throat, itchiness in the throat. That's life-threatening. Got to get medical attention right away. Typically, we see that maybe once or twice in our career. More likely than not, you're going to have swelling, especially on injectables. We see more people in topicals. We see more reactions. You have swelling, redness, generally feeling like something is not going right. That's what we'd call an allergic reaction. We want to differentiate that, though, from side effects. So a side effect of a medication may be tiredness. It may be upset stomach, nausea, diarrhea, things of that nature. And so we always want to be clear, like, what's an allergy to med? Like, this is life-threatening. We need to get in your profile, make sure you never take it again. Versus, hey, is this a side effect that might just be able to be mitigated by moving the time that you take the dose or potentially taking it with food?
Wow. So can you continue using leftover medications, or should I be asking how long is what's the word, not the word, validity or of a medicine?
Yeah, so if you're asking, can you take medications after they're expired? I'll give you my pharmacist answer, which is no. Don't take expired medications. And typically the way it works is that drug companies will take the medication and they'll look at it over time, and they'll want to make sure that it's still 90% effective. So if they put a dating 3 years out, let's say, August 2028 is the expiration date. That means they've tested that medication, they've made the formula, they've made it into a tablet, and they've let it sit in a warehouse, right, an air-conditioned warehouse, presumably, for 3 years, and they tested it again, and they found that it was still 90% active and effective. And that's how they set dating parameters. So if we think about the ramifications of going outside of that, 4 years, 5 years, or if you go to my mom's house, right, there might be something that expired 10 years ago. You're going to have a very less active form. How much less? We don't know, right? It could be 70% active, 60% active. In a few cases, it can be even harmful for certain antibiotics that have gone past their expiration date. So professionally, I would say no. Have I taken a naproxen or an Aleve when I had a really bad headache that was expired? Of course I have.
And of course, we do want to let people know who are listening to this broadcast or viewing this broadcast, if you're having any symptoms, we are not in any way prescribing anything here today. If you're having any sort of problem, you are to call 911. We are not prescribing here or analyzing anybody specifically. We're just talking about general questions that you would ask your pharmacist. One good thing is, believe it or not, I was a painfully shy individual till about the age of 20 when I read the book, The Power of Positive Thinking. Kind of came out of myself. I think it worked a little bit, huh? But anyway, I didn't realize until now, like, I happen to be outgoing. I pushed myself to be outgoing. So I do talk to a pharmacist but I was thinking, what's good about what we're doing today, this broadcast, is that people need to feel free to speak up. A lot of people won't speak up. They'll think it's poor manners. It's kind of like asking a doctor. A good doctor will say, you say, I want a second. Most people are reticent to say, I want a second opinion. And the good doctors I know, and you know many of them in our town here, will say, oh, no. It's perfectly okay to ask for a second opinion. It's actually to the doctor's benefit, because then, he's more protected because you've consulted with somebody else. So I don't think we should ever be offended, and never be reticent to ask your pharmacist, hey, do you mind if I ask you some questions about this, right?
Yeah, 100% agree. And we get a lot of that. Actually, I have a good number of patients that will call up Perkins Pharmacy. They don't utilize us, use Walgreens still or Walmart or whatever it might be. But they know me from the stuff that I do online or on the air, or a friend of a friend is always like, hey, call my pharmacist. And we're always willing to talk to you down at Perkins. We can answer whatever questions you have. And you're absolutely right. Second opinions are vital. We, as humans, we have our biases, right? Based on what we've seen in the past, what's worked in the past, and the way that we were trained, by the people before us. And 100% am a fan of second opinions. I like to be challenged. Like, okay, well, tell me, why do you think that is? Like, what's the evidence? Show me. And as you know, so often we believe we're right in what we do, whether it's professionally, or personally. And a good part of the time we are incorrect, right? And we're always dealing with limited information. And so if they get a second opinion, I think that is a good thing.
When my mother died, I was put on an antidepressant. We were very close, and I was put on an antidepressant called Wellbutrin. And what I'm going to get here is about about missing a dose. What happened is I was on this Wellbutrin. I remember, and I had a friend of mine who was a counselor of 11 children and a great psychologist. And he said, he never swore, but he said to me, and I won't swear now, but he said, don't F with that, or it will F with you. Mm-hmm. And, I've never heard him speak that way. So he got through this thickhead here. Yeah. So I remember one time I inadvertently had missed a dose, and come about 8 o'clock at night, I'm feeling like, I don't feel like I belong on this planet. I don't know, something's really wrong. Like, I don't know what's the matter with me. And I was really, really feeling very bad. And suddenly I realized I had missed that Wellbutrin.
Yeah.
Immediately ran home, took it, and within probably 15 minutes, boom, I was okay. But I realized, wow, if he hadn't said that to me, I may not have thought about that. And so, what should we do if we miss a dose?
Yeah. Well, first off, very interesting approach to the advice the individual gave to you, and it's a good one. Compliance is so important. I'll say that, and we probably don't hammer on this enough at the pharmacy that in order to get a benefit, the benefit that you're looking for in a medication, you must be compliant in taking it. And as a pharmacist, and pharmacists in general, we just believe it's a given. If the doctor prescribed it twice a day, we put it on the bottle twice a day, you're going to take it twice a day. But that's not the reality. And we need to do a better job of getting through to people, maybe with slightly different verbiage. But it is very important to do that. As far as what to do when you miss a dose, it's highly dependent on the time that you recognize that you missed the dose. It's highly dependent on the mechanism of action of the medication. And in this case, right, it was a medication that would work very quickly. In other cases, the medication that you take today is going to have an effect 2 or 3 days from now. It'll affect an enzyme, right, that's still in its life production cycle that will eventually do something different down the road. So it's highly dependent on the type of medication. What I would say is give your pharmacist a call. We get this call once a day. I missed my dose. They're going to take a look at it, understand how long the drug lasts in the body, what's the timing of your next dose, and then make sure that you're not taking it in a time that's so close together that you're going to become toxic, right? So having a very high dose, let's say you remember at 1 a.m. and you happen to have my cell phone number, and I know you're taking your next dose at 8, I'm going to be very cautious in telling you to take that dose then. Maybe I do. I say, well, hey, Rhett, I want you to go ahead and take it right now, but we are going to do a half a dose tomorrow morning, or we are going to skip tomorrow's dose. And so it's very highly dependent. Pharmacists all across this country will answer that question every single day. Just call your pharmacist and ask them.
Be warned about self-medication. Just last summer, a year ago, right about now, I self-medicated. I was up in Vermont, and I was at a Barnes & Noble, and I forget the symptoms I was feeling. So I decided that I would take a little more of my Toprol.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't take my blood pressure. I, being Dr. Palmer, decided I would take some more Toprol. Well, in the meantime, I wasn't feeling good, so I went to the emergency room, something I don't normally do. As a male, pride and ego, I didn't even go to doctors till I was in my 40s because I was just like, that whole thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, I get there, and the nurse comes in, and very good people up in Vermont, what's the name? Burlington, Vermont. What a great group of young people working at that medical center there. It's also a college. And he said, I just want to let you know that it's not my blood pressure. I guess it was my pulse. Now, I knew nothing about pulse.
Right.
Here I am, a 70-year-old guy. I don't know anything about what's pulse.
Yeah.
Okay. He said, did you know that your pulse was down? And you're going to know what this means when I say it. It was down to 30.
Oh, wow. Wow.
He said, Mr. Palmer, had you taken the other half of that tab, you probably would have put your heart to sleep and you would not be alive now.
Yeah.
And that was a radical wake up for me. Don't self-medicate.
Yeah, 100%. We can't oversimplify, our thoughts or understanding of the system. And, we talk about it a lot. He who has himself for a doctor has an idiot for a doctor, right? And so it applies in a lot of different things. But unless you're extremely educated, again, on how the drug works, the mechanism of action, the implications of these what we call very narrow therapeutic ranges, that can be extremely dangerous. And again, pharmacists, we are the most accessible healthcare professional in the world, right? You can't just call up and get your doctor on the phone. You can't just call up and get your podiatrist on the phone. If you have a pharmacist and it's anywhere near business hours, usually, I'll say at least at our pharmacies, within about 2 minutes, you can be speaking to a doctor of pharmacy who can guide and direct you for free on what to do. Now, sometimes the answer is not what you're looking for. It might be like, hey, Rhett, this is above my pay grade. I don't know or understand your labs, everything that's going on here. I want you to make an appointment with your doctor. In the meantime, my best advice would be to do X, right? But we're here for you. And nationwide, this isn't unique to Perkins pharmacies. Like, we have a heart to educate and to help. And in that situation, that would have been a perfect opportunity to reach out to your pharmacist.
Well, you're a perfect guy for being a podcaster because you're a handsome guy. You look like our Vice President J.D. Vance. Did anybody ever tell you that?
I'd heard that a lot, especially as the election was coming about. I got a lot of J.D. Vance quotes and references. So that's good. He's a good-looking guy, and
Yeah.
not a bad guy to look like.
And so are you. And I'm surprised you didn't become a movie star. Now, you are married. For the ladies out there, I do want to let them know. You are in fact married, and you have children. How many children do you have?
Yeah, so I've been married a little bit over 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 5 beautiful, wonderful children, gifts from God, ranging everywhere from 2 years of age up to 13. And so that's it's been a very interesting balance of life between running businesses and serving our clientele, and then also trying to be a good husband and a good dad.
Yeah, and plus I do want to make sure we mention now and then while we're doing the broadcast, people tune in, they tune out, and that is the fact that we're talking with Dr. Amir Rahim, Rahim, right? I'm pronouncing it right?
Rahimi.
Okay, and you own two. You are a doctor of medicine of pharmacy,
Pharmacology.
and you have a pharmacy in Vero Beach on Route 60, which is a compound pharmacy, which is a specialization, but you also do regular medications as well. But if somebody needs specialized compound, but you also have another very successful pharmacy down in the county of Port St. Lucie. Where's that located?
Yeah, so we're located right next to St. Lucie Medical Center. That's kind of the landmark that everybody knows down there in Port St. Lucie, right off of US 1. We have our medical supply store there, as well as our traditional pharmacy, our compounding pharmacy, our long-term care pharmacy resides in that building. And then we also service all of hospice for St. Lucie County out of that facility. As well as I've got the great privilege and opportunity to be the on-call pharmacist for St. Lucie County and Martin County, at
Wonderful.
times for Okeechobee County as well, which is, kind of just a fancy way of saying that 24 hours a day, I'm the guy they call if they need that emergency medicine in the middle of the night, on Christmas, when, typical pharmacies can't get it to them.
Now, I happen to notice you have a shirt on today, and it says your name, AMIR. So I'm thinking, up until this point, even to this very day, we've been planning to do this interview. I didn't realize you have a company called Amir. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So it's Amir X, right? And so you can kind of see there's a play on the R here.
Oh, yeah.
For pharmacy, and it was really created out of the necessity to be, it was my Butterfield's hat on, with my Perkins hat on. I also own another supplement company called T1RX, where we do high quality functional supplements nationwide. And so I felt like I was just constantly changing hats. Butterfield's, Perkins, T1RX, involved in another company called Gorilla Meds, where we do very high end tactical first aid kits. And I was constantly wearing different hats, but always as the pharmacist educator. And so I said, you know what? I just need to come up with my own branding and logo, which is Amir X. And that's how this brand was born. I have the privilege to do a lot of podcast and interviews. And so we typically just go with this branding on there. And then I also have a couple of supplements that are near and dear to my heart that are under the Amir RX brand. So a lot of times,
do you want to mention those?
Yeah. So a lot of time in the industry, we scratch our own itch. And if we have a problem that's come up on blood work or something of that nature, I go deep into the research and say, hey, what are the lifestyle things that I need to do? What are the medication things that can be done? And then what can we do naturally? And so out of that came 2 products that I personally take. One is berberine. A lot of people have heard about berberine, know about berberine. It's been called workout in a bottle. And they say that because it activates your metabolism, right? Speeds up your metabolism, which for a lot of people who may be carrying a little bit of extra weight or trying to get in the best shape of their lives, an active metabolism can be a really good thing. We love eating, we hate restricting, and this is something that can bring that metabolism to a new level. The reason why it was important to me to take it, not only do I want to maintain a healthy weight, it can be extremely beneficial for metabolic health. And I know you and I are going to get into probably a whole episode on metabolic health and the epidemic that's going on in the country right now with metabolic disease. And to say it differently, we might hear more about diabetes, right? That's one component of metabolic disease. But berberine is fabulous. And I was looking for a brand that would be of the highest and purest quality and the correct doses. When I couldn't find that, I created my own. And the other product is Liver Defend. And so we don't talk a lot about liver disease or think about liver disease, but the reality is right now in the United States and around the world, almost 40% of adults have what's called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. All right, so this is, just exactly what it says. It's not an alcohol-based liver disease. It's a metabolic disease. And what are the implications of that? So if you think about 4 out of 10 people, look to the people to your left and to your right, somebody in the room typically is going to have this disease state. And what are the ramifications, right? Your liver is very resilient. You're actually pretty unlikely to die of a liver failure. I'm not going to say it can't happen, but more likely along the way, cardiovascular disease or cancer is going to take you out. And you are at a much higher risk for this if you're one of those 40% of people. And so we created a supplement that would help to detoxify and cleanse the liver. And that's called Liver Defend. And they're both under Amir RX. So very proud of those. Again, I created them for me personally. And then over time, in our practices, we found that other people were dealing with similar issues. And so, yeah, it's been a really big success.
That's wonderful. Congratulations. Wow.
Thank you.
I got so interested now, I forgot what my next question was going to be. And I have some important things. I have some other questions written here anyway, but okay, let's see.
Rhett, let me ask you a question because I'm always curious about this. How old are you?
I am 71.
You look 61, so you're looking good. So 71 years of age. So an individual like yourself, you're active, you're traveling, you're moving around. What keeps you up at night from a healthcare perspective? Like, what are the things that you think about when it relates to your health that you really wish you could change, or you're concerned about what would happen if you don't change?
Well, I'm definitely concerned that I'm overweight. Nobody in my family was ever overweight. I thought my grandfather had a bit of a belly. He lived to be nearly 90, I guess it was, and he had a little bit of a belly, and I thought he had a belly. Now I look back at the pictures of him and I go, oh my word, what happened to me? Of course, I kind of wonder if a crime has been perpetrated upon the American people with these trans fats, because this is just conjecture on my part, and I don't ask for you to substantiate this, but is that, first of all, I think that a lot of the food companies have addicted us to sugar. And also these fats. And so what do you do when you walk into a 7-Eleven? What do you do? You go, I went to a health camp once up in Vermont, in Killington. I'm sorry to say that my friend passed away who owned that walking hiking camp, but he retired and then passed away. But, said, when you go into a 7-Eleven, and just one thing, he said, buy the banana. Mm-hmm. And so immediately, because otherwise it's carbohydrates, it's sugar and carbohydrates. It's all just a bunch of junk stuff, And I was watching a TV show, where they have America's Most Funniest Videos. Yeah. And they went back maybe 25 years to a show that they filmed. Now, I forget what the reason was. But as they panned the audience, and in case you don't know what panning is, folks, it means left to right, right to left. And as they panned the audience, I said, oh my God, there's no fat people. Mm-hmm. When I was a kid growing up, we had this kid named David Schreck. And David Schreck in Poughkeepsie, New York, he was the fat kid. Everybody had a fat kid in their school, maybe one, maybe two. And he was obese, morbidly obese. But and today may just be considered heavy fat. But anyway, that was a rare thing. All of a sudden now today you pan an audience and 60% of the crowd. So I just think that I think the reason that they did this trans fat thing, and they kind of hit it, this is all conjecture on my part, is that if we sued Procter & Gamble that spends, $4 to $6 billion a year in advertising with their foods, if somebody were to find out that they could have one of those things where they all get together and they ask a law firm to sue,
Yeah.
I mean, if they sued Procter and Gamble, it could put a big sucking noise in our economy and really ruin America economically. So I think they just quickly kind of put it so I don't know where I'm getting to. I don't know what you want to respond here
Well,
to or not, but
I'm just always curious what's on people's mind, what's keeping them up at night from a healthcare perspective. Our job, our calling, right, is to support, help, and address the needs and concerns of our patients and our community. So I always love to ask that question just to try to understand, like, mentally, like, where are these folks at and what do they want to work on? And I think the cards are absolutely stacked against people when it comes to food. That the game is set up for you to lose. And I don't think it's intentional in that companies want you to be sick, or there's some sort of connection, if you will, between the food industry and the drug industry, and there may be, but nothing that I've seen in my lifetime. But the food company wants to make the tastiest, most delicious, most addicting, most get you back to buy their product that they possibly can. And unfortunately, that doesn't lend itself to simple, healthy ingredients, right? It's got to be complex. It's got to have the right amount of crisp and sweetness and salty and fat flavor, right? And so what I would say to people is, it's stacked against you. It's rigged. It doesn't mean that you can't be healthy. It doesn't mean that you can't fight back, but you've got to try really, really hard. And over the past couple of months, we've run a couple of just free 14-day metabolic reset challenges here in Vero Beach. And we're going to be doing another one here in late August. And I'll tell people how to get connected with that. And it's totally free. It's just to help people get on the right track. But during the times when we're doing these 14-day metabolic resets, we're having no sugar, no bread, no refined grains. And it is nearly impossible to eat in this town. Nearly impossible. I will go to the Indian restaurant and get food, and I will order select items off of the Chipotle menu. And then, of course, you have your more fancy restaurants, as I like to call them, where you can go down and get a steak and broccoli. But for your typical lunchtime, run out and grab something, nearly every gas station, every fast food joint, even sit-down restaurant, it is almost impossible to get away from those trans fats, or seed oils, sugar, and bread, right? It's cheap, it's inexpensive, it's addictive, and the cards are stacked against people. But it doesn't mean that there's not a way, but you have to be very intentional to eat in a very
intentional,
simple and old school way. So
I find that true with me too. Like when I lost 52 pounds about 6 years ago on Weight Watchers. Well, they helped me, but I was just constantly making the next best choice. And I have found that, of course, I found some of those pounds again. I got to get rid of them again. But is that I can go for ice cream, or I can go for a boiling bag of Green Giant spinach, or green peas. But what I find out is, I said, well, I wonder why the broccoli tastes better in the frozen. Well, that's because they go to the farms and they actually quick freeze that broccoli. So the broccoli you get in Green Giant or Bird's Eye that's quick frozen at the farm actually is better for you than the stuff that's picked over in Tampa and then hauled over in a truck, which takes a day or two and comes to the local Publix. And you're nodding your head in agreement.
Yeah, definitely going to have a higher nutrient count for sure. Either way, you're winning. If you're the individual that picked broccoli over ice cream, you're winning either way. And put a little bit of grass-fed butter on there and enjoy for sure. But yeah, nonetheless, it can be done. Weight Watchers, excellent program. Definitely encourage people to follow our social media channels. We give a ton of just free daily, I'll call it every other day, encouragement for people to stay on track, to stay on the path, do our best to recognize people who are making great decisions for themselves.
And where can they go to watch you?
So it's going to be Perkins Pharmacy on Facebook. That's probably the best location. They can also subscribe to the Butterfields channel. And then we're going to have a new channel coming out as well, Amir RX. That's going to have a lot of that same material. That's just information. How do we live our best and healthiest life? What resources are out there? And just a daily motivational message type thing to stay as healthy as possible.
Well, I think that's wonderful. When we come back in the future, I want to talk about, like you said, we're going to be talking about these meds these quick lose weight meds, or people are, have a nephew that's taken has lost 40 pounds, et cetera, et cetera. But there's a lot to discuss on what's going on in medicine today. And also, food wise, I'd like to in the future ask you. I know you're a follower of the Lord Jesus, right?
Yes, sir.
And it's what was in the book of Daniel, where the boys asked the king, "Let us not eat your food for 20 days and see what looks like," and they just ate vegetables and fruits, and their countenance was so healthy, And so I buy that bread. What's that? That Ezekiel bread.
Yeah.
That's based on a biblically created bread that's in the Bible.
Yeah.
And I'd like to know what your feelings on that are. Well, not your feelings, as well as, most importantly, your thoughts as a pharmacist. So there's a lot more things we can discuss. What do you think about that Ezekiel bread? I will ask you that. Are you familiar with it? Or?
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. I see it at Publix. I wish I was more familiar with the story, and maybe Doolin could look it up in the background.
We'll find it for the next time.
If I remember from Sunday school, and that was a long, long time ago, I believed traditional bread, as it was described in the book of Ezekiel, was actually cooked over manure, right? And so that always kind of turned me off. And I'm sure the modern day Ezekiel bread is not cooked that way. They're using a different reference there, but that always stuck with me. Like, I just remember hearing that as a child in Sunday school. They would cook the bread over manure, burning manure. I'm like, that just didn't seem appetizing to me. But nonetheless, I think this company probably takes a different angle at it. And, I think bread in general tastes amazing and is wonderful, and it's a gift from God. Of course, I think that modern bread today, as we have it here in the U.S., is maybe good for our soul, but not good for our body, right? And so a lot of conversation. I know there's a huge sourdough group out there, who has a claim that the grains are more, and I'm not an expert here, but I think fermented and therefore easier on the body and the stomach. And I think there's some level of that being true, but I kind of
never heard that.
I kind of lump bread into the ice cream category. I think it is good to have from time to time. It's amazing. We thank God for it, but it probably doesn't have a place in any sort of our regular day-to-day diet from a health perspective, of course. And that varies from person to person. That's highly individualized, right? The group and clientele people I work with tend to be the type that are trying to put on muscle, to lose weight, to sleep really good, and to manage health conditions. My kiddos knocked out a loaf of sourdough just yesterday, right? So I think it's highly
Never heard
dependent
that
on
about
who you are.
sourdough.
Yeah. We should get a sourdough expert here. There's some alleged health benefits I'm very interested in. But again, it would still be something that we would enjoy from time to time, and not every day.
Maybe we can get somebody to zoom in the future when we do one of these shows. And by the way, if people have any ideas of subjects they'd like you to broach on my show or your podcast as well, do you have an email address where people can connect with you?
Yeah, so it's going to be Amir, AMIR, at Perkins, VB for VeroBeach.com. And we can put that in the show notes or on the screen maybe as well.
There's so many things to discuss. Well, listen, I know you've got two pharmacies to run, Dr. Amir Rahemi. That's Perkins Compounding Pharmacy on Route 60 in Vero Beach, right across the street from that custard place, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we say next to Taco Bell, across from KFC, right next to the custard place.
That's a good place for the pharmacist.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Up there with the health food.
Yeah, and they can call us at 772-978-6470. My name's Amir. I'm there a lot of days. You can always find Ed Perkins, who is the original owner. He still works for us, national treasure here in Vero Beach. And then Bob, longtime pharmacist friend of mine from my Walgreens days, is also there. So there's always somebody there 6 days a week that can help you. If you're looking for a pharmacy where customer service is king and that we really focus in on your health and wellness, we would love to have you come over to Perkins Pharmacy and work with us. We do deliver to all of Vero Beach, Sebastian, Fellsmere, and then with our partner pharmacy, all of St. Lucie County, Martin County, and we're getting into Okeechobee County. And then we have clients all across the state for hormone replacement. From Tampa to Tallahassee, we've really become known as the regional expert here in precision compounding. So we'd love to take care of you.
That would be something I'd like to broach too in the future, is about this testosterone stuff.
Yeah.
Because as an older guy now, 71, my testosterone levels are down.
Yeah.
And I know there's a natural testosterone. I know it's like a synthetic, or they say it duplicates the natural.
Yeah.
And what your thoughts on that are? And
Yeah, I'm very pro testosterone, and I'll give you just a 30-second highlight of it. We look at studies, and we look at what's called A1C, or we look at what's an average blood sugar level, right, of individuals who are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. We put them on a proper dose of testosterone, and we see their average blood glucose levels come down. We see their weight come down, right? We see their midline come down. We see that they have increased clarity, mental clarity from mental fogness. They have energy again. They're able to have enough motivation to go to the gym, and they respond closer to what they did in their 30s and 40s when they go to the gym. And so it just becomes a cycle of positivity, in their life. So I'm very pro testosterone done in the right way, done under the guidance of a medical practitioner. There are some people who aren't candidates for testosterone based on their health conditions. But I have seen, and really we could do a whole show on this. This is some of the exciting part of medicine. So often we treat people who are sick, or we're trying to convince people who aren't sick yet to stay healthy. But when it comes to hormone replacement, all of our levels, whether you're a man or a woman, and women have testosterone levels as well, we are going to decline. It's nothing you did wrong. It's not a disease state. It's just the progression of life. Your levels will decline, all right, 100% of the time. And by replenishing a useful level, an optimal level of testosterone and other hormones that we talk about, you're giving people their life back, right? If you have the energy to go out and play with your grandkids, if you're able to drop 15 pounds, if you're able to go to the gym and show progress, right? And then that translates to hiking in a beautiful place like Maine. That is life-changing for people. And I love working with all clients across the board. But these people, individual, they come in, they are happy to see you. They're energetic. They're smiling. They're loving life. You get to be part of that. And testosterone plays a huge role in it.
Well, good. Well, we'll have to talk about more of this in the future. You said we could do a whole show on that. Well, there's obviously I'm the thoughts have. This is our first show together, and I'm excited with I'm inspired with how many. We can just go on and on and on and on. And people are concerned with their health, so this is great. Well, Dr. Amir, I know you got your two pharmacies to run. I want to thank you very much for coming on again. You're located out on Route 60 in Vero Beach, and you also have a location down in Port St. Lucie. And what's the name of the pharmacy down there?
Butterfield's Pharmacy.
Butterfield's Pharmacy. Okay.
Yes,
and is there anything else that any subject I failed to broach that you definitely wanted to jump on today? Or
no, I think we had a really good introduction. Look forward to talking with you and your audience more. And any questions that come in maybe after the show, let's write them down, and we'll answer them on the next podcast.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rhett. Have a great day. Enjoy Maine.
Okay. You too. Thank you. God bless.
Wasn't that incorrect?
What's that?
I said, wasn't that incorrect?
Yeah.